The grand ballroom shimmered under the crystal chandeliers, echoing with the soft clink of champagne glasses and the polite laughter of high society. Tonight was no ordinary evening. It was the annual corporate banquet of Sheng Group, the most an anticipated event of the season, where power met prestige. Cameras flashed, designer gowns swayed, and all eyes were on one man, Mr. Sheng, the elusive CEO, known not just for his wealth, but for his icy charm and mystery. And right beside him, draped in glitter and arrogance, stood Kong Yan, the woman everyone believed to be his new companion. "Isn't she supposed to be his mistress?" someone whispered, behind a raised wine glass. "She's not just a mistress. She's been showing up everywhere lately. Parties, charity galas, even the boardroom," another guest replied, eyes narrowing with interest. But the real scandal of the night hadn't even begun. In a far corner of the room, unnoticed by the crowd, a hush fell over the service staff as the elevator door opened. Slowly, the click of heels echoed across the marble floor, steady, unhurried, deliberate. A figure emerged, her silhouette framed by the golden light. A woman, unknown to most, stepped into the ballroom wearing a red dress that glowed like fire. The fabric hugged her frame perfectly, neither too revealing nor too modest. It wasn't the dress that stunned them. It was the confidence in her walk, the quiet strength in her gaze. That woman was Lin Roqing. 2 years ago, they had called her ugly, plain, forgettable, the kind of wife a rich man married out of duty, not love. She was Mr. Sheng's legal wife, but never once had she been seen at a public event by his side. In fact, rumors claimed Mr. Sheng had married her in a rush to please his grandmother and then practically abandoned her. And yet, here she was tonight, walking straight into the lion's den, uninvited and unapologetic. Gasps rippled across the room. The cameras that were once focused on Kong Yan slowly started turning toward the mysterious lady in red. Even the reporters, trained to keep their lenses pointed at headlines, couldn't resist. "Who is she?" whispered a journalist. "She's not on the guest list," said another. But someone recognized her, and their voice trembled as they muttered, "That's Lin Roqing, Mr. Sheng's wife." Just as Mr. Sheng raised his glass for a toast, his eyes caught a flash of red in the distance. His hand froze mid-air. Time seemed to stop. Kong Yan noticed the shift immediately. How could she not? The man who barely looked at her all evening was suddenly staring as if he'd seen a ghost. Or an angel. His wife had come back, and she looked nothing like the woman he had dismissed. Lin Roqing walked through the crowd as if she owned the room. She wasn't flashy, but she radiated something far more powerful: grace. People moved aside, some out of confusion, others out of fear. Not once did she look at Kong Yan. Not once did she flinch. Her gaze was steady, straight at the man who had broken every silent promise their marriage once held. She reached him, finally, as the room held its breath. "Mr. Sheng," she said, her voice soft but unmistakably clear. "You left me off the guest list. I hope you don't mind that I made my own invitation." Kong Yan's smile cracked, just slightly. "You're causing a scene," she whispered, trying to laugh it off. But Lin Roqing didn't even glance her way. Her attention remained locked on the man she once called husband. Mr. Sheng, usually calm and unreadable, looked shaken. This wasn't the woman he remembered. The girl he had treated like a burden, who stayed out of sight, who never fought back. Something had changed, but what, and why now? The silence between them stretched long enough to make everyone uncomfortable. Whispers turned into murmurs. The air grew thick with curiosity and judgment. Had the wife come to reclaim her title? Or was this revenge, served cold and calculated? A reporter's voice broke the tension. "Mrs. Sheng, are you and Mr. Sheng back together?" The question hung in the air. Lin Roking smiled, finally looking at the crowd around her. That would be quite the story, wouldn't it? Mr. Sheng took a step forward, something unreadable flashing in his eyes. Regret, maybe. Interest, definitely. But before he could speak, Lin Roking turned away, her red dress flowing behind her like a warning. She had made her point. She had come not to beg, but to be seen, and she had been. As the music slowly resumed and people scrambled to process what had just happened, Mr. Sheng stood rooted in place. For the first time in years, the CEO, who had everything, found himself speechless. Because deep down, he knew something tonight had shifted. The woman he had once overlooked might just become the one thing he couldn't ignore anymore. And just when he thought it couldn't get more complicated, someone handed him an envelope. A legal notice. Mr. Sheng opened it with trembling fingers. His eyes widened. It was from Lin Roqing, and it wasn't a divorce. It was a claim, a business proposal, a war. The banquet wasn't just a party anymore. It had become a battlefield. And the woman in red had just declared the first strike. What exactly was in that envelope? And what secret was Lin Roqing hiding beneath that calm exterior? You'll find out in the next episode. The envelope in Mr. Sheng's hand felt heavier than it looked. Around him, people returned to their conversations, the buzz of the banquet slowly resuming, but he couldn't hear any of it. His gaze stayed fixed on the fine paper and the sharp signature at the bottom. Lin Roqing. It was like seeing a stranger's name, except it wasn't. It was his wife, his forgotten wife. And this wasn't a love letter or a goodbye. It was a declaration. Inside that envelope was a formal request. Lin Roqing wanted to collaborate on a new tech project under Sheng Group's Innovation Fund. Not as a favor, not as his wife, but as an independent entrepreneur. And she had already secured 2 major investors from overseas. It was bold, calculated, and perfectly timed. She had chosen tonight, in front of cameras and board members, to step out from the shadows, not as the woman he married, but as the woman he underestimated. Mr. Sheng looked up, scanning the crowd for her, but she was gone. Like smoke, like she had only appeared long enough to shake the ground beneath his feet. Backstage, Lin Roqing stood quietly by the large glass window, watching the city lights. Her heart was racing, but her face was calm. She didn't come tonight to start a war, but she was ready for one. 2 years ago, when she married Sheng Yishen, she thought love would follow duty. She was naive. What followed instead was silence, cold walls, and a man who looked at her like an obligation. So she disappeared from his world, but not to fall apart. She rebuilt herself. She studied business, worked on her software startup in secret, and slowly pieced together a plan. Tonight was not her return. It was her rise. Meanwhile, back in the banquet hall, Kong Yan was boiling. Her grip on her wine glass tightened as she watched Mr. Sheng zone out completely. He hadn't said a word to her since Lin Roqing left. She had worked so hard to climb to this position, manipulating the media, cozying up to shareholders, playing the perfect partner. But in one night, one red dress undid it all. And that proposal, she wasn't blind. She could read between the lines. Lin Roqing wasn't just coming back. She was coming for the empire. The board members noticed too. By the next morning, buzz was everywhere. Social media exploded with headlines. Mrs. Sheng returns in red, leaves CEO speechless. Mysterious wife no more. Lin Ro-king launches her own company. Who's the real power behind Sheng Group? Behind closed doors, meetings began. Directors whispered. Some were intrigued, others cautious. But all of them saw one thing clearly. Lin Ro-king was no longer just Mr. Sheng's wife. She was competition. At the same time, a new subplot emerged. A young developer named Chen Yu, who used to work quietly in Sheng Group's IT department, was revealed to be part of Ro-king's tech team. He had left the company a year ago under strange circumstances. Now he was back, and loyal to Lin Ro-king. Rumor had it he left because Kong Yan pushed for his termination. Afraid of his talent, maybe. Now, he was coding the backbone of Ro-king's revolutionary AI platform, one that could potentially challenge Sheng Group's current products. Mr. Sheng's assistant, Li Jai, watched it all unfold with concern. He had served the CEO loyally for years, and he'd seen plenty of business threats. But this was different. This was personal. Lin Ro-king wasn't driven by revenge. She was driven by quiet resolve. That made her dangerous. Tension escalated when Ro-king's proposal was formally reviewed by Sheng Group's board. Mr. Sheng expected her to be nervous, to falter under pressure. But when she arrived, dressed in a sharp navy suit, and flanked by two calm investors, she delivered her pitch with ease. She answered questions, explained financial risks, highlighted benefits, and even politely responded to subtle jabs thrown by Kong Yan, who had somehow forced her way into the meeting as an advisor. By the end of the meeting, two board members openly praised Ro-king's vision. One of them even asked if she would consider a leadership role within the company. That night, Mr. Sheng stood alone in his office, staring at the city again. For the first time in a long time, he felt uncertain. He couldn't shake the image of her. Confident, composed, untouchable. This wasn't about love anymore. It was about respect. And somehow he knew. He had already lost the first round. But not everything was so clear for Lin Ro-king either. Deep down, she still remembered the early days of their marriage. The quiet dinners, the loneliness, the way he avoided her eyes like she was a burden. She never hated him. She just stopped expecting anything from him. But as she sat by her office window now, fingers resting lightly on the same red dress she had worn to the banquet, her heart tightened. Had she really moved on? Or was part of her still waiting for him to finally see her? Just then, her phone buzzed. A message. From Sheng Yichen. Can we talk? Just us. No boardrooms. No audience. She stared at the screen, unsure what she feared more. What he might say, or what she might feel when he said it. Because even though the business war was heating up, the real storm had always been between the two of them. And it was far from over. Lin Ro-king stared at her phone for a long time before replying. Finally, with a deep breath, she typed a short message. Tomorrow 7 p.m, the old cafe near West Lake. It was a quiet place, far from corporate offices and flashing cameras. She wanted to face him not as a CEO's wife, not as a business rival, but as the woman he had once married and left behind. The next evening she arrived early. The cafe hadn't changed. Same wooden tables, same faded paintings. They had come here once during their first month of marriage, when they still spoke in polite tones and walked side by side, strangers bound by family expectations. She sat by the window, watching the lake shimmer in the fading light, until his shadow appeared in the doorway. Sheng Yichen looked different tonight. No suit, no bodyguards, just a man in a simple shirt, carrying too many unspoken words in his eyes. He sat across from her, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence said enough. I didn't see you, he finally said, voice low. Not really. I thought I married someone quiet, safe, someone who'd stay in the background. Real king, raised an eyebrow. And I was all of those things. Until you taught me how invisible I really was. He winced, but nodded. I deserve that. I didn't mean to hurt you, but I was. Angry. At my family. At the deal they forced on me. And I took it out on the wrong person. King leaned back, studying him. So now what? You're sorry and everything's okay. No, he said quickly. Everything's not okay. You've changed. You've become someone I can't ignore anymore. Not at home, not in business, and I don't want to fight you. Her voice softened, just a little. Then don't. He hesitated. I want to offer something, not because I pity you, but because I admire you. I want to merge our companies, your tech vision, my infrastructure, equal partners. It wasn't what she expected. For a moment, her heart skipped, because this was the man she had wanted to believe in once. The man who now saw her, not just as a wife or a problem, but as an equal. But, he added, that doesn't have to come with marriage. You're free to walk away from me. You don't owe me anything. King looked down at her hands, then out the window again. The lake rippled under the wind, calm and deep. I don't want to walk away, she whispered, but I won't shrink for you ever again. If we work together, it's as two people who choose each other, not because we have to, because we want to. He nodded slowly. Then let's begin again, on equal ground. And just like that, the tension that had followed them for months began to lift. The media continued to buzz with headlines like, Power couple reunites, this time on equal terms. From forgotten wife to tech visionary, King inspires thousands. Mr. Sheng and Mrs. Sheng announce business merger with a twist. Meanwhile, Kong Yan's influence began to wane. Her schemes were exposed by an anonymous leak, rumored to have come from Chen Yu, who had documented everything she did to sabotage younger employees. Without Sheng Yichen's support, and with the board distancing themselves, she resigned quietly and disappeared from the public eye. Chen Yu, now a lead developer in the newly merged company, was given full freedom to innovate. He and King created a tech mentorship program for young developers across the country. Sheng Group's image transformed from a cold empire to a people-first powerhouse. As for King and Sheng Yichen, they didn't rush back into love. They took it slow, relearning each other, rebuilding trust. They worked long hours, sometimes argued, but always returned to the table as equals. He would often catch her typing late at night, hair tied up, focus sharp, and smile, because now he saw her clearly. In the end, the story wasn't about revenge. It was about rediscovery, about a woman who refused to be erased, and a man who learned what it meant to truly value someone. Their love wasn't perfect, but it was real, and this time, it was built not on silence, but on strength. Because sometimes, the most powerful thing a woman can do is stop waiting to be chosen and choose herself first. And when she walks into a room, not to impress, but to claim her place, she doesn't just turn heads, she changes everything.